I'm going to take you on a little tour of the course that we use here at Pooley Country Park for big bear events. So we're going to start just on this green space behind me here, and then we're going to start going down towards the nature reserve. So the country park effectively is split in two by the M42, and we are going to go straight across and we're going to see what there is over there that you're going to be running around. Within about 100 metres of the start, 200 metres of the start, you come out onto a little access road that is tarmac road. You do get cars along here, very, very few. And you come underneath the M42, an absolute highlight, obviously. But with these videos, the idea is to show you the whole course, not just the nice bits. And you go alongside the Coventry Canal, definitely a canal. You go alongside the canal. Underneath the M42 is actually the quietest bit. So you do get a bit of a hum of the M42 as you go along. But once you get out into the woods, it does reduce quite a bit. As you escape the short concrete road that's probably 50 metres long, you cross the canal and then you come into the country park proper. At this point, there are lots of different paths you can follow. So you do need to just follow the arrows. It'll be heavily marked, as always, but just bear that one in mind. Lots of the course is on this crushed stone, really nice runnable surface. Being a former quarry, you do get little wet sections like that behind me. As soon as it's rained, the water just doesn't drain. It's just what happens. There's nothing really much you can do about it. It just is what it is. But just bear that one in mind. If it's been heavy rain the night before, then it does mean that it's going to end up being a bit grubby underfoot. But there's not loads of sections where it'll be puddly. I'll show that as I go around if that is the case. As soon as you get away from the M42, it really is quite quiet in these woods. However, just behind there is a train line, great for transport here. Is a train line, so every now and then you get a train come past. But the trees, you can see all these, I'm going to say silver birch trees, really quite thick and dense. They really do muffle the sound, and it is just as though you're running through the middle of the trees. It really opens up for you, so it does become more apparent. But if you can see that behind me, it sort of just looks like thick, dense trees, which is beautiful to run along. As you're still running on flat sections here, you do come to this big pond, lake, I'm not sure, that looks a horrific colour. It looks bright yellow, probably doesn't show that well on the screen, but looks bright yellow, and that is to do with, I don't entirely know, but it's to do from when it used to be a coal pit here. However, from what I understand, the colour is sort of not that important, because again, you might be able to see behind me loads of wildlife, loads of plants, loads of ducks. They all seem fine. I can't see any with 3 wings or 15 legs or anything like that. But yeah, something really weird to look at if you've not been here before. It's just a very, very bright body of water that was even brighter when I was here in the summer. So I'm filming this early October 2025. So this is what it looks like as the leaves are falling. Obviously it looks different at different times of year. It is a woodland after all. So about a mile in at this point, it's beautiful. It's all like this, deep forest, nice and peaceful. The M42 that you start with, long gone in the distance, and instead you're just deep in the woods. Pretty much haven't gone uphill yet either, which will be relevant once we get to the middle part of the course. You come out of the slightly denser woodland and then you come out onto some of these wider roads. You can see behind me some of the rocks are a bit bigger here, some of the path is a little bit less maintained, still really nice, but a little bit less manicured, I guess is the word. But you're still deep in the woods. And you're coming back to the section where you came into sort of like the main bulk of the park. But rather than going back out there, we're going to do a sharp left in a bit, and we're going to start heading up to the top. Come off the flat section. Just behind me is the beautiful M42, and where you enter this side of the park as well, which is the nature reserve. And then this is when you start climbing, and you can begin to see the climb that you're going to do. You don't go up the first one, it's just behind me there. We're going to go along a little bit, and you're going to get to the next one. This section as well is the first bit where I've got to, where it's actually been a bit muddy and a bit wet. So I'm going to dance around the outside so I don't get wet, muddy feet. Very, very much depends what the weather has been like in the build up to the event, as to whether that stays like that on the day. If the event you're doing here at Pooley Country Park is in the middle of the summer and it's been dry, that obviously won't be an issue. If it is a slightly winter-based event and it's been raining a lot, then you're probably going to get a bit muddy there. But as you saw, that is about 2 meters out of 5k, so you don't need to dress for that whole 2 meters, and you can dance around it, and my feet haven't even got wet, so it's not that big a deal really. But we are now beginning the slow climb to then be turned into a very, very steep short climb up to the top. You've done about 100 meters of slow climb, and then you're going to do a 90-degree turn onto this little kicker. It's probably not even 100 meters, but it's steep. I'll find the Strava stats to find out exactly how steep it is. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say about a 25% incline. But it does get you then to the top, and then effectively it's downhill all the way back to the end of the lap. It's obviously, well, not obviously, but you can see behind me, underfoot, very uneven, very broken, lots of stones. So I thought better to come up this than go down it, because coming down this might just be a collection of bodies at the bottom. But what you can see is the great big statue as you come up the climb. I'll find the name out. Golden Tower of Leaves, I think. I'll get there in a minute and I'll read a sign. But you can tell by my laboured breathing that one, I'm unfit, and that is quite a punchy, steep little climb. Once you do get to the top of the climb, you are then greeted by this great big thing. So it is as tall as it looks. It's very, very big. I believe it's called the Golden Leaf. I've just read a little sign. It doesn't really tell you its actual name. It's full of lots of flowery language that I don't particularly understand. But it's obviously a great big golden statue that you really do not expect to find in the middle of a country park at the top of a hill. The views are extensive, but quite a lot M42 based, unfortunately, and the tops of silver birch trees. But it is very, very nice up here. And once you do get to the top, you are then greeted by the downhill section. So if you want to know more about what this thing is called, feel free to pause it as you look at this bit on the screen here, and you can have a little read of whatever this is called. But yeah, lots of flowery language that I don't understand, and I want to keep running, so I'm not going to pay much attention to it. But once you get to that part and you've crossed that section, you then start the downhill, and pretty much it's either downhill or flat for the second half of the event, or the second half of the lap. So it is, as much as your elevation might be quite high on each lap, it's very congested into a very short section. Once you start running downhill, you'll also see that it's a beautiful gradient for running downhill, so you can run nicely. It's quite loose underfoot, but it's a really, really good gradient. What you can also see is behind me here, you might be able to see it through the trees, is there's quite a lot of mountain bike trails up here. It's quite confusing working out exactly where they are, but none of these routes run on mountain bike trails, but they do go across them. So this is a keen example. So it comes down there, comes across the path, and then carries on straight down there. Obviously we'll be here during the week, and so the chances of coming across mountain bikers pretty slim, to be honest, but just keep your wits about you, just to make sure that we don't have any accidents out on the course. But we don't run on the mountain bike trails. It's just there's some bits where it does cross over, and it is quite congested up here in that regard. This is a section of real single track along here. Path is very tight. As I've said previously, I'm filming this in October, so we're sort of getting towards the stinging nettles and everything receding, but they're not receded yet. So this would probably be about as overgrown as it gets, maybe. But there's a clear, definite path. And come the end of the day, once we've had about 1,000 people running along it on all of their laps, it'll be absolutely clear. You'll be absolutely fine getting along it. Lots of beautiful little spots as you come along. This is one of them as well. So out here behind me is just a body of water of some sort, lots of reeds out there. Whether you can ever see the actual water, I don't know, but it just adds to all the wildlife and all the creatures that you get here, and makes you really feel like you're deep in the woods when really you're not that far away from a cafe. Once you've been to the top of the woods and you've seen the great big golden statue, you then effectively circle back on the route out. You do back on the route in, so you sort of it's an out and back with a loop at the top. But it's beautiful because these woodlands are just lovely, and they're so sort of varied and windy, but not having to brake, as you're not having to do sort of like 90-degree turns, that you won't realise necessarily that you're back on the same bit. You might do by the end of the day. I'm not trying to be silly here, but it's not as though you're going up and down a towpath where you've seen the same bit of canal, which looks like the last bit of canal, which is the same as the last bit of canal and the last bit. It's very varied here. There's very distinct sections. It's just very beautiful. I think I've come during maybe its best period, which is autumn, with all the leaf drop and the leaves starting to turn colour. But regardless, any time of year, it's going to be absolutely beautiful here. That is the course at Pooley Country Park. So you know you've got back when you've got the great big wheel behind you and you can see the coffee shop just in front of you. The HQ will be set up here, so you'll see that on each lap as well. It's obviously where you come back to, right into the coffee shop. And just behind me there are the toilets. Just up there is where the car park is. And so if you need to get back to your car for any reason between each lap, or you want the coffee shop or you want the toilet, really, really easy and accessible to get to that each time. So have a look on bigbearrents.net, see when we're here next at Pooley Country Park. For those of you that like a belts and braces approach to this, the car park here is absolutely massive. No worries at all about being able to park your car. You'll be able to park here easily. There's even an overflow section that we could open if we had to, but easily park 150, 200 cars here, so you don't need to worry about that either.